housing some of the biggest garages I think these cars will ever have seen in their life. You fit a car showroom in some of those garages now.
I mean, it is a very impressive building, something 400 metres from one length from the exit of Club all the way up to Abbey. For the poor pit crews, of course, it's an additional walk. You can see that part of the pit lane, the bit at the end of the pit lane, is actually below the level of the circuit. So for many people, they not get to see the pit stops when they look from the grandstand viewing areas across to the exit of the pit lane.
Well, here is the starting grid then. As we said, Andy Zuber will lead the cars away, hopefully, as far as he's concerned. Lucas Luhr alongside him on the front row. And then it's the all Aston second row. Darren Turner and Alex Muller with the first stint. David Brabham and Peter Dumbreck and all Nissan third row. And then we get to Enrique Benaldi and Maxime Martin, another all Aston row. The two Hexus cars, the championship leader Christian Hohenadel, who will do well to pick up points from back in 10th place. The Mark VDS racing team, the first of the Lamborghinis on row 6, row 7, another of the allinkle.com Munich Motorsport Lamborghinis, and the two Belgian racing cars right at the back as we sit in the cockpit with Darren Turner. Wanted to come back here, defend the Tourist Trophy, has a lot of success ballast. They'll be racing for the Tourist Trophy on Sunday afternoon, and was maybe a bit surprised to be so far up in qualifying. There's pace though in that Aston Martin, John.
Yes, I mean the Aston Martin is absolutely married to the Silverstone circuit. They were the winners of the race last year, but for a very minor infringement they lost that victory, and they want to make it up clearly here this weekend. So strong showing from young driver Aston Martin with a lockout on grid 2. But keep an eye on the Ford VDS of Maxime Martin and Federica Makovici, because Maxime Martin took part in the GT3 race some hour and a half ago. He's the only driver in the field who's got an idea of what the track conditions are like. Everybody else who was out much earlier in the day.
And there the view from the front from that Corvette. The track conditions, as John Watson says, are changing all the time here. And Maxime Martin coming through, storming through in the second part of that GT3 race to finish on the podium as runner-up. Back with the Hexus AMR Aston Martin, Andrea Piccini just soaring away at the wheel there, trying to get temperature into those Michelin tyres, and getting those tyres up to temperature going to be absolutely crucial to get traction from the off.
Indeed, and these cars, they're quite a solid car, over 1,000 kilograms, so they need to get that energy in at the earliest opportunity. It's a long lap, 3.6 miles, just over 5.8 kilometers, so there's an opportunity to get some surface tyre temperature. What you're really looking for is total core tyre temperature, but then it's the run from the start for the first time into Abbey from this new starting position on the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit.
Hexus go into this race leading the team's championship from allinkle.com. Aston Martin from Lamborghini, and from the position on the grid today, they'll do well to keep the points advantage they have at the moment. Young driver Aston Martin will be looking to pick up points themselves, and then the two Nissans, JR Motorsports and Sumo Power, will be hoping to close the gap as they sit at the moment in 4th and in 5th place. Points for the qualifying race go down to 6th place. 8 for a win, 6th for the runner-up, 4 for the man in 3rd, and then 3, 2 and 1. There's extended points in the qualifying race in 2011. Still though, pit stops need to be made between the 25th and 35th minutes. All tyres must be changed as well, and we could see a lot of chopping and changing around come the pit stops as the course car makes its way down the pit straight. And now Andy Zuber has nothing ahead of him but clear track. And when he's going to swing round Club, which is the final corner here, he'll be looking for the lights as well. They're all looking for the lights. Jamie Campbell-Warner, I hate this bit. Doesn't everybody, unless you're the man sat on pole. And that man is Andy Zuber, looking for the lights to go out. And away we go. It's green here at Silverstone. And it's a great start from Lucas Luhr in the Nissan, already making his way down towards the first turn. He's in the lead. Andy Zuber's been caught, sandwiched between two Aston Martins, and there was contact there as well. But what a great start from Lucas Luhr. Got the jump on everybody else and made it through. Just looking now to see which of the Aston Martins managed to muscle their way up into second place. But Andy
Darren Turner's been spun round.
He has been spun round, and a big contact there between Darren Turner and the other JR Motorsport Nissan of Peter Dumbreck. Huge bad luck for Darren Turner on his home track.
At the very part of the circuit we anticipated it coming out of village into the loop and contact at the back of the field, but the lead right now, well, it was with the Corvette off the line, but he was totally swamped by Lucas Luhr, who got a stonking run off club and took the lead into turn one, Abbey Corner.
It was a sensational start by Lucas Luhr. I know Michael Crum was saying that made a few mistakes in qualifying. You know, luckily Lucas is starting the race for us here today, and very much luckily that Lucas was starting the race, because it was an absolutely stonking start from the man himself. And there's major damage to the number 21 Sumo Power Nissan, David Brabham on board.
And he's going to go back into the pit. You can see the car basically struggling big time. The right front, the bodywork back against the wheel. And Jamie Campbell-Waterwell, he is wondering, is this race over before we've even had one lap complete?
How prophetic is it that Jamie Campbell-Walter is saying moments before the start, I hate this bit, and then his car, major damage in it. The number 22 car, Peter Dumbreck, we saw involved in that collision with Darren Turner.
And Richard Westbrook again waiting in the pits for his driver to get back. And two Nissans involved in collision on the opening lap again.
Say what you like about GT1 this year, it is not safe to be out on that track on the first lap. We saw it at the Saxon Ring, thought it might be a little bit safer here at Silverstone this weekend. That certainly hasn't been the case. Lucas Luhr, though, leads 1.2 seconds his advantage from the second of the Aston Martins. Alex Muller taking the opening stint there. Andy Zuber running in third place at the moment. And up into fourth place is car number 20, Enrique Bernoldi, making a great move from the fourth row of the grid. Car number 5, the first of the Lamborghinis, Dominic Schwager. Great start for him, John. Schwager started down in 11th, he's up to 5th.
Yeah, I mean, he also was a beneficiary of the incident that occurred in turn up at the loop on the opening lap, so he just avoided it, and of course, consequently, he's made up position. But there you can look at the damage to the front of that Nissan. That's the David Brabham, Jamie Campbell-Water car, and I don't think that car is going to see too much more action here this afternoon.
Aerodynamically, one would say it's a bit of a woofer at the moment.
Yeah, and a very wide line going through. It's down at Lovefield, so the outside view of Lovefield corner, and the wide line in, taking the tighter exit, of course. Look at the back of that. That's the Westbrook car. Peter Dumbreck behind the wheel. Well, I'll tell you what, I'd like to be in the business of making carbon fibre parts for Nissan, because they seem to go through them like no other team. Yeah,
and there we are, Darren Turner getting out of his Aston Martin, and do you know, I can't see his eyes through that crash of it, but he's throwing a steely look there down the pit lane. I get the feeling Darren Turner not a very happy man at all. Meanwhile, Lucas Luhr out in front at the moment, just seems to me not getting away too much. We're seeing battling there between the Lamborghini and the Ford GT, but here right at the start, right hand side of the screen, Lucas Luhr getting away brilliantly, John.
Superb run into the corner, contact with one of the Astons and the Corvette, and the other Aston off the track trying to get back. Oh, there we didn't even see that. That's one of the Hexus Aston Martins got spun round on the exit of turn 1. Here we are in the loop, and that's the Aston getting turned round. It backs into the back of the Nissan. Then the other Nissan hits the front of the Aston Martin. I mean, unbelievable.
And that was Clivio Piccioni we saw spinning around at the start there in car number 3. No success ballast on that Aston this weekend. That's a missed maybe opportunity for Clivio Piccioni, who's down in 11th place at the moment.
I mean, this reminds me of going to the Dodgems and Bangor when I was a kid.
It's Banger being the operative word there, banging him certainly. Okay. Let's go down to the pit lane, get some reaction from Haley.
Darren, you've just watched the replay. Whose fault was it?
Well, it's a bit messy, turn 1. There's a bit of contact. I think the Corvette just ran a bit wide and tagged me, but it was all okay. And then going into turn 3, just got a big hit from behind. I don't know what Nissan, one of the Sumo cars. So yeah, a lot of damage. I mean, the first impact probably didn't do all the damage, but the second impact with the other Nissan did all the damage. So we're out of the race. Hopefully a couple of the Nissans are out of the race as well. Pretty poor driving, really. I mean, it's a slow corner. You know, everyone's on cold tyres, so they need to use their brain a little bit.
Thank you, Darren.
I think as Darren Turner coded message was saying people didn't use their brain very much there at all.
In fact, I thought it was the back of a Nissan, there was the back of the Aston Martin, and that is substantial damage to the rear of that car, much, much worse than it looked from the head-on shot that we had as the cars exited out of the loop. So Darren understandably peeved, and that's the understatement, I think, of the day.
Yeah, and 4 cars out of the race. David Brabham in his Nissan, Darren Turner in his Aston, in the Ford GT, Maxime Martin into the pits as well, and seemingly out of the race. Your dark horse one to watch, John, nice one, and Peter Dunbrek as well.
But we've got a battle. We've got a battle with Lucas Luhr and Alex Miller. The Aston Martin beginning to run down the Nissan as they come down the straight into Stoke Corner. Corvette, after all the expectations of domination, got swamped at the start, but now slowly beginning to make its way up as we see Aston versus Ford into Stoke.
Mark Henrici and Andrea Piccini almost side by side there. Piccini ahead in the Aston of that Ford GT, and it's the other Corvette of Michael Rossi who's just ahead of them. Rossi currently in 7th place, ahead of Andrea Piccini, and then as I mentioned, Mark Henrici in the other Ford GT. We can go back on board now with Alex Muller, and you can see the leader, and he's not getting away, Lucas Luhr, not being allowed to get away, John.
No, and I think the Aston has just simply settled down, as the Nissan likewise has done to settle down, but the Aston, the better balanced car of the two. It's the grunt that the Nissan has got, but in having all that grunt, you can sometimes just overwork your car in those early laps, trying to gain the advantage to pull away. But the Aston, the gap 0.39 of a second, and blink and it'll be less than that.
So it's grunt against poise and style, if you want to put it that way here. But that Nissan very, very suited, especially through the middle sector of this Silverstone circuit, which is where the cars are at the moment.
But you can see on the timing and scoring there, the Aston has been taking the best part of 0.3 of a second out over the last 2 laps. So just under a second and 2 laps. And Lucas Luhr is going to have a fight on his hands. And
the stewards, by the way, looking at that incident down at turn 4, where we saw the cars coming together and all that bumping and barging, well, the stewards are having a look at that. One thing is for certain, it has rather ruined what could have been a great 6-car, 7-car battle right at the start. We're now down to a 2-car battle at the moment. 52 minutes to go in this race, still anything can happen. But I have to say, Lucas Luhr, his life maybe being made a little easier by having to fend off just the one Aston Martin at the moment, not one Aston and a couple of Nissans as well.
Yeah, but I mean, as we count down the minutes, 60-minute race with the mandatory pit stop after 25 minutes, Andreas Zuber in the Corvette lost the lead in the opening lap, fell back down to 3rd place. I'm expecting that Corvette, as these 2 lead cars race each other, to see that Corvette join into the battle and make it a 3-way battle for the lead. Well,
we shall see on that one as we ride back on board with Alex Muller in the Aston Martin, and taking, you know, a neat line through club there, not drifting as wide as we've seen some cars drift during the course of this weekend. Right-hander into Abbey now. And now that little kink to the left, and this is now heavy braking. That Aston just gaining a little bit on the Nissan in front, but they remain 1st and 2nd as they head into the loop.
Richard, it was an unfortunate incident. How's Peter doing out there?
Well, he's retired. I mean, we're out. I mean, everyone just needs to chill out in the beginning. There's just see accidents on the first lap every single race. I don't really get it. It looks like one of the sumo cars missed its braking point and took 3 cars out, and like I said, everyone just needs to chill out. It's an hour-long race, and you know, you can't win it on the first corner, on the first lap. I just don't understand. But there you go, it is what it is.
Thank you, Richard.
Well, let's see a replay of that turn 4 incident again. Who wasn't chilling out there then, John?
Well, I mean, Richard's quite right. You see, this is Darren Turner coming round as they go through. That's through the village corner. Darren gets himself into a position where he gets tagged from behind by one of the Nissans. That's the 21 car.
That was by Peter Dunbrek, I think, wasn't it?
I don't know whether that was the car that did the damage to the back of the Aston Martin, but then there was a sort of ricochet effect of one car into another Nissan, and that's what led to the 2 Nissans retiring, but primarily just Darren Turner's Aston Martin having severe damage to the rear of the car.
It's an interesting one for the stewards to try and sort out, 'cause it kind of looked like a racing incident. They're all jockeying for position.
And I think, in fairness, there was nothing there that was a deliberate move. It was people jockeying for position, and on cool tires, people will sometimes take different lines or approaches where they see opportunity, but that all then pinches together at the apex of the corner. Everybody wants to go to the apex from either the inside or the outside. As we look at Mike Hazemans and his dad Twan, the great Dutch racing driver, or Belgian racing driver of the 60s, watching son Michael, or watching, let's say, co-driver Zuber catch to the lead 2 cars.
And he is starting to catch a little bit, Andy Zuber as well. He's only a second and a half behind now. As look at this, Alex Muller is just making a little gain into the loop on that lead that Lucas Luhr has. And now 3 cars separated by only 1.5 seconds.
Well, the difference between the lead 2 cars and the Corvette in 3rd place is that the Corvette has had clear air effectively to run in. He's running about half a second a lap quicker than the lead 2 cars are running in the 2 minutes 2 seconds, and that's the Corvette being dragged. It's like a magnet on the back of that Nissan, just drawing the Corvette up to the bumper, and the Aston as well. So these 3 cars now, as we thought 2 or 3 laps ago, it is now a 3-car battle for the lead of this qualifying race.
So Nissan leads Aston Martin, leads Corvette, leads Nissan with Enrique Bernoldi, leads Lamborghini, that's made consistent progress through. Aston Martin, Corvette, Ford, Aston Martin and Ford completing the top 10 there, the Belgian racing cars towards the back of the field. And we've only got, at the moment, 12 cars running in this race. But Andy Zuber won't care a dot about that. He's making gains, he's making grounds. What does he do? Does he just wait? Does he bide his time, or does he try a lunge? There's still 48 minutes to go here.
Well, the thing is, if he gets his momentum, he can maintain the momentum at a key part of the racetrack, i.e. somewhere he can use that momentum to get alongside the Aston Martin before you get into the braking zone. Then he's got a good opportunity.
And only 1.4 seconds separating Lucas Luhr, who leads, and Andy Zuber, who's currently racing in 3rd place. You can see Enrique Bernoldi in the sumo-powered Nissan just starting to lose touch a little bit. Bernoldi is another, 3.2 seconds behind Andy Zuber at the moment as they come to complete lap 5 of this race. And the gap is 1.2 seconds now between our leader and our 3rd place car, and is back down to 3.8 seconds between 3rd and 4th.
Muller's picked up the pace a little bit. He's responded to the... Here he goes down the inside.
Tries it downside, well covered. Lucas Luhr, though, makes sure that he hangs on to the lead. But for how much longer? Because that Aston, I wonder if it's got the top speed to challenge with the Nissan down the Wellington Straight. But watch Andy Zuber in 3rd place here, who's got a very, very good exit indeed. Out of the Aintree Loop and down the Wellington Straight we go, riding on board with the Corvette. 160 miles an hour, something in that region. Now down into 2nd gear to go through Brooklands, and you can just see how you hang on as best you can. You can take several different lines round Luffield and into Woodcote here, but it seems to me that Aston coping better with that corner than the Corvette is.
A different way Zuber took the corner. The Aston line with Alex Muller behind the wheel, I think, paid dividends, because he's been able to just increase the gap between the Corvette and the Aston. It's fractions of centimetres, inches. I work in inches, and but these 3 cars now will end up running at the pace of the lead car. 2 minutes and 2 seconds for the Nissan, 2 minutes and 1 second for the Aston and the Corvette, and they will soon all be running around the 2 minutes too. And then it'll be down to Bernoldi, currently in 4th place, 5 seconds behind the lead car. Can he then make it a 4-way battle with this 46 minutes of this race remaining?
And then it's going to come down to pit stops as well. Don't forget them, John, because you've got all the money that's spent trying to get extra tenths, couple of tenths off the times on the track. But when you have a pit stop, it's down to the crews as well to get it done as fast as they possibly can, because that makes such a difference in GT1 racing. I can tell you the big difference at the moment is that the 2nd and 3rd place cars are consistently lapping faster than the leader, although it seems to me that Lucas Luhr on this lap has just pulled out a bit more of an advantage. They cross the line now, and there's 1.5 seconds once again between 1st and 3rd, 1.1 seconds back between 1st and 2nd. And that's, I think, as a result of Andy Zuber just distracting Alex Muller enough to make him defend more than attack.
Well, in effect, they've all got the whiff of a victory somewhere around, and what they're hoping to try and do is get past either the Aston get past the Nissan, or the Corvette get past both of them. But now the pace of the race has dropped to the pace of the race leader. The Aston and the Corvette have dropped back half a second a lap on their last lap times. where previously they were half a second a lap quicker, as Mike Hazeman concentrates, almost tries telepathically to get Andy Zuber to just get on with the programme. Don't waste your tyres, get past that Aston Martin and then attack the Nissan.
A whiff, John Watson? Or do you
I wondered how long it would take you to pick that one up.
Or do you mean the scent? Let's go with the scent of victory this afternoon. It sounds like a dramatic Agatha Christie type novel, but I tell you what, you're not going to find out who's done it for another 45 minutes here as round cops go the three cars in close tandem. Fourth gear, 175 kilometres an hour, and down onwards, I should say, through to Maggots and then Beckett's. Beautiful place to watch your motor cars twisting right and left and right once again, and just a bit twitchy, that Corvette going through the complex.
Yeah, Zuber just a little bit maybe keen to try and get on the throttle in the middle of the complex. Aston Martin with Alex Miller now closing again. He's managed to draw fractionally ahead of the Corvette, focusing very much on the rear of the Lucas Luhr driven Nissan.
And Enrico Benoldi just putting in consistent lap after consistent lap. Not on the same pace, obviously, but consistently hanging on in that fourth place, maybe saving his tyres, maybe coming to the end of its life, not quite sure. Michael Rossi in the Corvette, gaining on Dominic Schwager in the Lamborghini as we go on board with the number 3 Hexus Aston Martin of Clivio Piccioni, and I think Piccioni trying to move himself up through the field. Look, there's a door open on the Mark VDS Racing Team Ford.
Second time we've seen a Ford GT's door open. We saw it this morning in practice or qualifying in the GT3 event. Now it's the passenger door on a GT1 Ford suddenly swings open, and that's going to be a problem aerodynamically. It's not a good thing. Air gets under that door. It could be enough to see the door being ripped out of its mountings, and then, well, goodness knows.
Well, I tell you what, it could be a problem for Clivio Piccioni if he's trying to get past on the inside. Oh, look at that, looking up is the Lamborghini, and Dominic Schwager has had to concede 6th place to Michael Rossi. Good move by the Corvette there. The Lamborghini has been struggling all weekend, and it was only a matter of time before the Corvette picked him off.
And that Rossi Corvette started back in the 7th row of the grid. He's now gained an extra position. He's up to 6th place. Good drive by Michael Rossi.
And the door open on that Ford GT once again. Has to be said that Mark Canarici here is struggling a touch with that. And if I was Clivio Piccioni, which way do you want to try and overtake it? Because you might get whacked with the door as you're trying to get past.
In my case, I would follow that car absolutely in its wheel tracks, because if the door does fly off, the best place to be is under the rear wing of that Ford.
Absolutely. Andy Zuber, by the way, once again, fastest man on the track, and he's just trying to catch in on our leaders. Lucas Luhr and Alex Muller as well. Down the hangar straight we come. 3 cars all in close formation. Headlights on as we approach evening time here. 4:30 on a Saturday.
Yeah, but they're not going to do 24 hours. They're just going to do 41 minutes and 52 seconds.
Alex Muller back on board with him. It's not so much evening as tipping time, isn't it, really, here at Silverstone today? Going down the gears. First gear corner is Vale these days, 85 kilometres an hour, and then they can get on the power, steady as they go. They don't want to drift out too wide here and attract the attention of the stewards. That's fine for the first 2, and right on the limits, really, for Andy Zuber as he pushes on in 3rd place. 9 laps completed, 1.4 seconds separating our top 3. Enrique Benoldi still running in 4th place, 5.7 seconds off the leaders, and then running in 4th, Andrea Piccini in the Aston Martin DB9.
Alex Miller looked, he gave the indication to Lucas Luhr that I might think about making a manoeuvre down into the loop at some point, so you be aware. I want you to keep looking in your mirror. I want you to be distracted by me, because if you're distracted by me, then that might give me some further advantage. But again, the seesaw between acceleration and braking. Lucas Luhr driving a really strong race in the Nissan, may not be the quickest of these 3 cars we see leading 2nd and 3rd, but the point is he's leading and he's controlling and he's able to drive his own race.
He's got a good flow for me as well. He doesn't seem to be making mistakes. He doesn't seem to be overdriving this car. He's just saying, right, I know I've got good top speed. I know I'm okay down the straights. I should be okay through some of the fast-flowing corners as well. And just find a rhythm. That's a secret of Silverstone. If you can get that rhythm and not overdrive.
You know what? Maybe Michael Krum, his co-driver, has given him a pre-production copy of his new book on being a racing driver, how to be a successful racing driver. Driving on the Edge, the new book from Michael Krum. It's an instruction manual on how to do it properly. Well, I tell you what, Lucas Luhr doesn't need to read Michael Kroom's version of how to be a successful racing driver. He's doing the best he can here right now.
And on his first ever visit to Silverstone as well, you know, not forgetting this man has not driven Silverstone before. It's the track that drivers all want to drive, John. They love the speed nature of this circuit, but you've got to find a rhythm, haven't you?
Well, Lucas Luhr's love circuit is the Nürburgring, the Nordschleife, and he knows it like the back of his hand. And he's loved Silverstone. He's come here, he loves the high-speed corners, he loves the balance of different speed of corners, and there is rise and fall on the circuit. He's fallen in love with Silverstone. Door again swings open. Hopefully that time he got enough of a momentum to shut it.
Yep.
But it looks to me like the latch that actually secures the door is not locking in place.
It is bringing a whole new meaning to the phrase slamming the door in the face of the driver behind.
I don't think Larry Grayson is driving the car.
Mark Henrici in that Ford GT, but the stewards need to look at that as well, don't they? You can't have doors flying open here as Piccioni closes right up on him. Sorry, John, as they enter the loop here, tries to go the long way around the outside, but that's where the door's swinging open. Wants to swing by and catch that car on the left-hand side.
I suspect what the stewards are saying, well, it's not any worse than it's been for the last 5 or 6 laps. We've got a mandatory pit stop coming up very shortly, so at that point clearly the engineers can get to work with it and fix the problem and not take another car out of contention with the battle that presently it is in.
Dominic Schwager in the all-Enkel Lamborghini as the car just up ahead. It seems to me these two are just gaining a little bit on Schwager, currently running in 7th place, Henrici in 8th, and Clivio Piccioni in 9th. Let's go and get more reaction from Mark VDS with Baz Linders.
Baz, is that door going to survive till the pit stop happens?
Yes, I think so. It is maybe something very small, so it should be okay. I don't think it's a major problem, so we probably lose a few seconds during the pit stop in order to make sure it's shut, but for the rest should be okay.
Thank you.
Be a major problem if you're heading down the M1 this afternoon, John, wouldn't it?
Well, at least you might say he's got the coolest drive in the field right now because he doesn't need air conditioning, he's got forced air conditioning.
And we've got about 2.5 minutes to go before the pit stop window opens. Still Lucas Luhr, as we now come to the end of lap 10, leads. And what's the advantage out there as the drivers get ready to replace? 0.7 of a second between first and second, 1.2 seconds between first and third, 6.5 seconds back to Enrique Benoldi, still running in 4th place, and Benoldi now is round about 5 seconds behind Andreas Zuber.
Yeah, he's dropped back a little bit. He hasn't been able to quite maintain the pace on these lead 3 cars. Again, almost tripping over each other as they come through Adelaide onto the Wellington Straight. And the question for me is now, they're all going to be very close to the pit stop window opening. Is this race going to be won on the racetrack, or are we going to see yet again a victory coming from smart, sassy pit work by any one of these 3 teams?
Alex Muller, I think, has got a bit more life in his tyres than Lucas Luhr at the moment, and he's just hanging on in there, got more speed going through those corners, and I just wonder, will they all cover each other, or does one man want to make a gamble here and say, right, bit of clean air, I could bang in a couple of laps quick enough to try and leapfrog them during the pit stops? It's one for the strategy, boys, but I don't know, if I was the Aston Martin, I might want to stay out there a bit longer.
Well, it depends, I think, a little bit on what you think the Nissan team is going to do. Because they're leading the race and because they're running at a strong pace in spite of the fact they're being chased down by 2 other cars, my instinct is to say, will we keep Lucas out another couple of laps? If that's the case, you want to be... And certainly Michael Kroom in the Nissan pit is set to go. We haven't seen in the Aston or the Corvette pits, but I assume all 3 teams are prepared to come in at the earliest moment. It'll be probably it's unlikely it'll be at the end of this lap. It'll certainly be at the end of the following lap that the pit lane will be open, but it's a close call, and certainly some of these cars may be able to get in before the lead cars get in,
which will be very interesting to see. Certainly Thomas Enger is down there, crash helmet on, waiting. Mike Heserman, we haven't seen him for a little while. I would imagine his crash helmet is on now as well. As the leading trio cross the line, they're going to have to stay out for another lap. Oh,
somebody's in, but either the in prematurely or is that damage?
That's it, because they got damage to their front right tyre there in the Hexus Aston Martin. That's Andrea Piccini.
Strange, it doesn't look like it's a flat tyre, yet something's locking or blocking the wheel on the right, the right front.
Well, Piccini was down there in round about 9th place, but now moving slowly down the field as the pit lane window opens at worst possible time, John, to get a problem. 20 seconds later, they could have made a regulatory change, couldn't they? Unless they actually got into the pits as the window opened itself.
I mean, where it's the timing mark where you come into the pit lane. Oh, Corvette in trouble!
Zuber is off the track. And problems for Andy Zuber there. We didn't see what started it through Anderson Beckett.
He probably had a pop down the inside of Alex Miller going into Brooklands and got it wrong.
Well, let's just see here. Oh no, it was down into Brooklands, you're right. No, something on the car, just skidding on his own, locking up under brakes, not quite sure.
Just had a rear brake lock, I think, maybe, again, tyre wear, maybe. I mean, it's a strange place to see a car lose it under braking. Normally, not some part of the racetrack that is hypercritical to braking.
And that has completely ruined Andy Zuber's excellent first stint there, recovering really well after losing his place right at the start. We can ride on board with him now.
I mean, whether it was a downshift in conjunction with a brake, we don't know, but certainly something locked up, particularly, I think, the right rear of the car, and it just went into that 180-degree loop, or 360-degree loop, in fact, by the time he got it pointing in the right direction. But, of course, it's taken all the heat out of the argument. In second place, Aston comes in for the stop.
And it's put, I think, Andy Zuber a little bit closer to Enrique Benoldi than he was before.
But
so
Zuber has got to come in now as well. His tyres will have been damaged in that spin, so it should be Corvette and Aston in the pit lane.
And here comes the Aston down the pit lane now, and you're right, John. Andy Zuber coming in straight away. Lucas Luhr stays out on the track. Enrique Benoldi stays out on the track as well, and it's all change at the young driver Aston Martin team. Alex Muller hands over to Thomas Enger. Mike Heserman very, very keen to get on with things now as he leaps into that Corvette. Such bad luck, of course, Mike Heserman had last year. His Corvette burst into flames and was so badly damaged we didn't see it again at the next race in GT1. He'll be hoping he'll be on fire for different reasons here this weekend. One of the Lamborghinis, I think that is,
I think the Swagger Pastorelli car
coming into the
Aston's
pits.
Going out. One of the that may well be the Muller Enger car going back out, so they've beaten the Corvette in the pit stop, and they've had the benefit of the Corvette spinning out into Brooklands just before they came in for the stop. Yep,
seemed a fairly neat little stop as well from the young driver Aston Martin team. We'll wait and see when the lead car at the moment, the Nissan of Lucas Luhr, changes over to Michael Crum, comes back out on the track again. He's got at least another half a lap to complete before he comes in for his pit stop. But now, with the pressure off in terms of the cars behind him, Lucas Luhr has got to put in an exceptional lap here with these tyres nearing the end of their life.
But the Nissan team is ready. There is, you see Michael Crum in the pit wall, waiting for his teammate Lucas Luhr to bring the car in and execute a seamless, that's what he's hoping for, 4-tyre wheel change, driver change, get it done, get it out quickly as possible.
So down through Stowe we go. And you'll see the pit lane entrance. Will Lucas Luhr, is he going to find it? No, he's staying out for another lap as through Vale he goes.
I'm surprised, because I would have thought that was the opportunity that you would take. There's no cars in the pit lane, relatively speaking. He's got an opportunity, although clear track, he can still push as hard as he is able to do. The last lap again at 2 minutes 02.4, so he's not had any benefit from being on his own. Even though there's no distraction from behind, he hasn't found any additional time.
His last lap, 2 minutes and 2 seconds, which actually was a little bit slower than they were producing before. So he's staying out there. Enrique Benoldi comes in, hands over to Warren Hughes, who's back with the Sumo Power Nissan team once more, back racing at Silverstone once more, where he first raced here in 1989, driving a Formula Ford. A little bit different for him in 2011.
Maybe the reason they're keeping Lucas Luhr out is to give the Nissan team an opportunity just to practice a pit stop on the Benoldi car. It goes back out into the race. So how long will it be before we see Lucas Luhr coming in to hand back to Michael Crum?
Well, we shall see. The fastest laps of the race so far, Andy Zuber with the quickest lap, that 2 minutes and 1.776. And there is his teammate Mike Heserman. Heserman's last lap a 2:52.9, including, of course, the pit stop. And out comes the Nissan, and that's much, much closer now. Warren Hughes is right on the tail of Hezemans going into the loop. Remember, before the spin, there was about 5.5 seconds between these two cars.
So these two cars are going to be joined very, very soon, I would imagine. And Warren Hughes, of course, I mean, this could be his back garden in terms of his motor racing career. Let's look back to Lucas Luhr, still in control, leading this race, still with a gap. Well, on the last lap, 7.7 seconds. It's irrelevant because it was all to do with the rounds of pit stop. Into Stowe, gets the car in, a little bit unstable on the entry, balances the car on the steering and the throttle on the exit, this time in the pit lane.
Right, and this is the race unfolding right in front of our very eyes, because on the track, Thomas Enger in the Aston Martin, charging as if his life depends on it. Seatbelts already being undone by Lucas Luhr as he cruises now into the pit lane, this long, long pit lane, and there is our car in second place in the race. Thomas Enger just about to start the hangar straight, I think, there.
Well, let's see how quickly Nissan can service the lead car. Can they get it done before this car on hangar straight? Now, this is going to be a horribly close call for Nissan, because I think Thomas the Tank Enger has got it, the tank filled to the brim of confidence.
And away they go then, the Nissan boys. Two of them changing all 4 tyres. Coming now into Vale, Thomas Enger, really slow corner, first gear, only 85 kilometres an hour. They're doing as good a job as they possibly can down at JR Motorsports. They're right at the far end of the pit lane, and there goes the Nissan out now with Michael Krum, but I just get the feeling that they stayed out a couple of laps too long, because there goes Thomas Enger into the lead, and there's the Nissan now in second place. It's quite a margin. If they'd have left it just 1 lap to stay out, John, they might have got away with it. 2 extra laps to stay out, and I think they've just given the advantage to Aston Martin.
I think, regardless of whether they brought him in a lap earlier or not, I think that the Aston team, the young driver Aston Martin team, did a stunning pit stop for Thomas Enger. I think the time that they've gained on the racetrack was actually time gained during the pit stop rather than keeping Lucas Luhr out. I'd love to see the time stopped in the pit lane for Aston against the Nissan team. To me, that's where they gained the lead of the race.
Michael Krum then rejoins the race, and he's in second place behind the tank. Thomas Enger for Aston Martin. In third place at the moment will be, I'm sure, Mike Heseman in the ex-team Bank China Corvette, and he's under pressure. Look at that, Enger, fastest lap of the race, 2 minutes 0.5, John.
I mean, that was
after the pit stops.
Well, I think the first flying lap certainly was the quickest lap of the race, and Thomas Enger no doubt contributed greatly. So Thomas has done the business that he was required to do on his first flying lap to get on it and gain the maximum out of a fresh set of tyres, be them new or fresh, and that has contributed, along with a good pit stop, to put them ahead of Nissan. Now, I'm sure Nissan likewise have a new set of tyres to give to Michael Krum, but the damage was done. Thomas Enger is the man responsible, along with the Aston engineers, and he's got control of the race by about 2 and a bit seconds.
And Thomas Enger will be feeling very pretty with himself at the moment. Not only are 8 points on the cards for a win in the qualifying race, but also the chance to start the championship race on pole, the race he won last year and was taken away from him. Let's hear reaction from JR Motorsports and Lucas Luhr.
Lucas, what a stint that was. Why do you think that you lost the lead there?
We had a little bit communication issue with the pits. I thought to stay out 1 lap longer. In fact, I should have pitted 1 lap earlier, so we had a little bit of miscommunication there. But it's still okay. We are in the second position right now, so hopefully everything stays like this. Maybe Michael can catch us up, you never know. And then we should be looking good for tomorrow.
Thank you.
He's 5.6 seconds behind Thomas Enger. Really? Is it okay? Let's ride on board now with the car number 10, the Belgian racing car of Antoine Leclerc that's just got past its sister team car of Baz Linders and up into 9th place.
And they seemingly have got the door on the Baz Linders 4 GT. That looks like it's now secured, but 3-4 GTs battling amongst themselves. They knew this was going to be a difficult circuit for the car. It's a circuit which has a lot of downforce required, a lot of horsepower required. They haven't been able to dial these 4 GTs into Silverstone as they should have.
It suits the front engine cars the best to Silverstone, not necessarily the Ford GTs nor the Lamborghinis here. But to go back to what Lucas Luhr was saying, it's okay, we're in second place. No, you've just lost 5.5 seconds to Thomas Enger in the Aston Martin, plus a little bit more as well from the communication problem.
Well, I don't know why the communication problem should have arisen, because the sophistication of communications between ship and shore these days is pretty good. But anyway, that's the story from Lucas Luhr. The damage is a 5.5 second deficit, having led this race from the lights going out into turn 1, and Lucas Luhr managed to do that pretty comfortably by my standard.
And as we watch the 3 Ford GTs having their own little battle for 8th, 9th and 10th, the stewards have reported there's a stop-and-go penalty of 10 seconds for car number 4 for the Hexus AMR of Christian. This was, I think, the Hexus that had the problem, wasn't it? Andrea Piccini, and handing over to Christian Hohenadel. They came in a little bit too early, is that right?
Yeah, I mean, we saw him come in the pit lane. There was smoke coming from the right front tyre. We couldn't see it was a puncture, we didn't know, but we also thought that he was probably going to be premature in terms of making his pit stop, and that's been confirmed by the stewards. So a penalty of 10 seconds for the car number 4 for pit stop infringement. That's the calculation you've got to make.
Even so, though, John, to actually come in and take the penalty, you know, they might have known they were 5 seconds before. It's probably best than trying to stay out for another lap or change the tyres and come in again.
Indeed, the problem that they had, they'd have lost even more time. There we see it now. Now, was that a lock-up? Well, we hear it was about 9 seconds, but the problem was that right front, if they'd done another lap, they'd have lost probably about 29 seconds. So they take the 10-second penalty. They're 10 seconds ahead of the deal. Sounds good to me.
Just unfortunate and bad timing for the championship leaders, and that's going to cost them points today and qualifying grid position for tomorrow's championship race as well. Picking up now the Corvette for you with Dimitri Engelbert on board. Currently running in 7th place, that Corvette, as Christian Hohenadel takes his penalty and gets back out onto the racetrack again.
Well, it's sort of soul-destroying for a driver to have to sit there and wait for the 10 seconds to click by. As we go back to the front, Thomas Enger with a comfortable 5.5 second lead, and really with no response from Michael Kroom. And all Thomas has got to do is just ensure that he doesn't find traffic, such as it is. There's not a lot of it around at the minute, but of course, inevitably, it always bunches up. You've got 3 Ford GTs fighting cat and dog between each other. He doesn't need to get into that, because those are danger zones.
At the moment, though, I think he's pretty much in the clear, Thomas Enger. He has a gap of 5.5 seconds to Michael Kroom, racing in 2nd place. Michael Kroom then has a gap of around about 6.2 seconds back to Mike Heserman, the Corvette, running in 3rd place. And then comes Warren Hughes running in 4th at the moment. He's about 5.5 seconds behind Mike Heserman. Then Stepp Dusseldorf in the Hexus AMR Aston Martin. He's about 6.6 seconds behind Warren Hughes. And after him comes the first of the Lamborghinis, Nicky Pastorelli in the allinkle.com Munich Motorsport Lamborghini, running in 6th place at the moment in the final points position. But they're all nicely spread out if you're a man like Thomas Enger, who doesn't want any dramas for the next 21.5 minutes.
But Nicky Pastorelli is coming under threat from Dimitri Engelbert, like Engelbert, but Engelbert in the Corvette. You know, new to GT1 this year, and the Corvette clearly we know has got more pace at Silverstone than the Lamborghini Murcielago has. So is it going to be a battle for Nicky Pastorelli? Really more of a defensive tail end to 21 minutes of this race remaining.
GT3 racer Dimitri Engelbert from Luxembourg. We'll make it up as we go along, John. 21 minutes to go on the clock here. Pronunciation was never our forte. That's why we became commentators, you know.
North London. Well, he runs the car certainly wide on the exit of Copse, not afraid of it, closing almost by the corner to the back of the Lamborghini. And again, how long can Pastorelli resist the brute force of the big V8 Corvette against that singing V12 Lamborghini engine?
I would imagine by the time they get to the end of the hangar straight, then the Corvette might just be within a late braking range, but he doesn't want to do anything too stupid, does the Luxembourg driver. Round Stowe we go. third gear, 135 kilometres an hour, maybe under braking interval. There's a chance. Here we go. Dives down the outside, but then just backs off a bit as Pastorelli slams the door.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was very cautious. He could have taken the chance to go down the inside. I don't think the Lamborghini would have been overly resistant in the move. There was room to do it, but he decided, no, I'm not going to take a chance. I'm going to wait until I've got a cleaner shot at the Lamborghini. And you can see clearly on screen how much more grip the Corvette has got than the Lamborghini. So he's able to use the racetrack more to his advantage and make the Lamborghini have to defend, which is never ideal.
And taking very different lines going into the first part of the loop there and closing right up the Corvette as they come out of that loop down the Wellington Straight. They come now, and can the Lamborghini hold on? Nope, seems like he's okay there. Let's go down and hear from Mark Henrici.
Mark, you seem to be in quite a situation out on track there with the door. How was that for you?
It was really difficult before, because in the left corners the door opened, and this affected massively the aerodynamic of the rear wing, and I had a snap oversteer, so it wasn't difficult, but was completely unnecessary situation where Piccione hit into me. And well, we see every race there's a crash, and some of the drivers they should think about their behavior, because we're only 16 cars and it's not really professional what we see here.
Thank you, Matt.
Well, so the door problem caused by a car
contact,
hitting
yes.
him, and contact there, which well, it was the slightest of contacts, John.
Well, it doesn't take a lot of door the way it's attached to the chassis. It doesn't take a big knock in it to distort it. And literally the Corvette coming onto the straight again under the rear wing of the Lamborghini. Not a lot of difference in the straight line speed of these two cars. It'll be under braking, but primarily under cornering that the Corvette has the advantage. But again, a lot of caution being shown from the Corvette. Maybe this lap down into Vale is another opportunity. Too far behind, and the defence from the Lamborghini.
Nicky Pastorelli, though, more experienced driver in this respect against Dimitri Engelbert. But that Corvette getting much better traction here, and surely he's going to have to go for it as he goes much wider round the final turn, down the main straight towards Abbey. Would be better off sticking behind that Lamborghini, trying to get a bit of a toe and then pulling out. He maybe pulled out just a little bit too early. Now, under braking, can he just slingshot his way down the inside into turn 3, the start of the loop? No, he can't. What about now as we turn left-handed and onto the Wellington Straight? He's a little bit closer, not a huge amount closer. He's just biding his time and maybe wasting laps.
Well, he's got a much greater range of options of the racetrack, whereas the Lamborghini really is having to use every inch of circuit to maintain its pace. The Corvette can go one side, go back to the other side. I mean, it's clearly being very cautious in this battle, which currently is on for 6th place, and not really prepared to make the commitment to make an overtaking manoeuvre, and that is allowing the balance of sort of confidence to go back to Nicky Pastorelli, because he'll have seen the Corvette come one side, the other side, but oh, maybe not just yet. So all of a sudden, Pastorelli's thinking, this guy doesn't know how to overtake. If he does, he's going to do something daft, so all I've got to do is keep him worrying about what I'm going to do, and he may not even yet make a manoeuvre that can give him 6th position.
Pastorelli and Engelbert in the battle for the final points position. Just the 1 point at stake here. Pastorelli with 32 points already this season in his 2nd season with allinkle.com Munich Motorsport, which is actually double the amount he scored through the total of last season's FIA GT1 World Championship. The Lamborghini, a much better force so far in 2011, albeit not at the sharp end of the field here at Silverstone so far this weekend. Now, is that Corvette close enough under braking to have a go on Vale? Go on, have a go, get stuck in. No, he just pulls back at the last minute.
You know, I mean, he's right on the gearbox now of the Lamborghini. Well, the gearbox actually is ahead of the engine, so it's back. He's right on the back of the engine of the Lamborghini. But again, the experience of Nicky Pastorelli, you know, he knows how to defend his position by doing nothing more than just backing up the Corvette, making the Corvette come off the throttle, then have to respond to the point when the Lamborghini gets back on it. And that's just the experience of one driver and the confidence over another driver. First time in a GT1 car, first time in a Corvette, maybe first time at Silverstone.
Well, quite. I think probably first time at Silverstone. We'll catch up with him afterwards and find out, is reasoning here, but this is very much the closest battle out on the track. Still 5 seconds separating Thomas Enger and Michael Krum, running first and second, with Mike Heserman just getting a little bit more detached now. He's nearly 8 seconds further back on Michael Krum in third place. So this is the battle for the 6th place and final points finish, and it's the closest battle on the track. If that Lamborghini can hold this Corvette off for the next 15 minutes, John, that'll be a magic drive by Nicky Pastorelli.
Absolutely, and again, it just shows the differences between experience and inexperience. Look, that Corvette, if it was ahead of the Lamborghini, would probably be lapping the best part of a second a lap quicker. The fact that Pastorelli is using a car that is less competitive to restrain a much quicker car from behind, and he's not doing anything other than just being intelligent behind the wheel, indicates the differences between the two drivers.
Back out on track, by the way, the Ford GT, the Mark VDS Ford GT of Maxime Martin and Freddie Makovicky, who's now behind the wheel. They're about 19 laps down, but they've managed to get the car going and back out on the track for a bit of testing time.
Correct, a bit of testing for Sunday's championship race. Might as well use it, because you're not going to get another chance to go on track outside of Sunday morning's warm-up, and of course that's at 9 o'clock in the morning. Ambience low, track temperatures low. We don't even know whether it's going to be wet or dry. Hopefully it'll be like today, a lovely warm dry day with a bit of wind, just to keep everything honest.
I love your optimism there. Every time I come to Silverstone, I always pack the emergency poncho just in case. It tracks rain, this place, like a nice jam sandwich attracts ants. Not that I would swap this track.
You work with an ant.
Quite. Not that I would swap this track for anything. It's fantastic. So let's go and hear from Michael Rossi now. Dimitri Engelbert's teammate down at Corvette is with Haley.
Michael, Dimitri's involved in a battle out there. How would you try and take the Lamborghini?
I think P7 is good for tomorrow, but I think we will just manage the tires and we will beat him at the end of the race. I think it's possible.
Thank you.
Well, it's possible, but if you look now, the Lamborghini is actually starting just to pull away just a touch, John.
Again, comes back to one thing, that's experience, and of course quality does help. Oh, and runs very wide on the exit coming out of Luffield, round Woodcote and past the old start-finish line. Looks empty. I've never ever been here at a motor race meeting where the old pits looks like a ghost town. Even the BRDC members suite, sort of almost the beacon of Silverstone, looks empty.
I'll tell you what, you get the keys to the bar, we'll go and fill it later, that's not a problem. 12.5 minutes to go of this qualifying race, and there is our man in second place. He can see the leader, and the gap was 4.9 seconds at the end of the previous lap. You'll see there, it's down now to 4.2 seconds. I wonder, is Thomas Enger just starting to drive with it himself, save the tyres a little bit, or is the Aston Martin starting to struggle a bit, and can Michael Krum just start to wear him down? He's got the time to do it, but look how much of the lead he's taken out on Thomas Enger in the last 3 laps.
Well, that's a second and a half by anybody's round-up figures. A lot of time to have taken out of a car driven by a driver like Thomas Enger. We're not aware of any specific problem. We've not heard from anything from the pit lane. He's doing middle 1 minute or 2-minute 01 second laps. A little bit quicker from Michael Krum. No obvious reason. Maybe traffic, we didn't see something overtaking some of the back markers. Maybe just an error, we don't know. Wait and see at the end of this lap. 4.2 seconds. That's the difference between the lead car and car in second place.
I just think, John, at this stage of the race, you're not going to start to go into cruise mode. You're not going to start to coast to victory for another 2 or 3 laps. You don't want to lose that rhythm we were talking about earlier that you've built up so well. And Thomas Enger, maybe he's starting to feel the pace. Maybe there is something wrong with the car. We'll see more at the end of this lap. We ride on board with Michael Krum going through Maggots and Beckett's, but he can just see that white target up ahead, can't he, disappearing down the Hanger Straight.
Well, if you've done the hard work, you've got yourself into a position where you've taken the gap from 5.6 seconds down to 4.2. You're aware that you're closing. You get the information, of course, from your team. 3.77 at that sector time, so the gap has come down. Is Thomas Enger struggling with tyre wear? Is the Aston beginning to falter under the pressure from Nissan with Michael Krum behind the wheel?
Now, you're a keen fisherman, John Watson. Oh, as we see the Ford out of this race, that's Baz Linders in the Mark VDS Ford. Parking? There's plenty of car parking space. You don't have to get there too early for Sunday.
No, I think they've got a little problem which has developed into a retirement as we go back on board with Thomas Enger.
And I just wonder if Thomas Enger's got a bit of a problem here, and he's starting to be reeled in by the master angler that is Michael Crum at the moment. Let's find out from the young driver Aston Martin team. Alex Muller's with Hayley Coxon.
Alex, Thomas seems to be dropping back on the pace. Is that due to tyre degradation or is part of the strategy?
Well, he's saving tires. So I think we have 4 or 5 laps left, and if he keeps the speed, yeah, we will bring it home. The engineer told him to save tires. Hopefully it's this. But I'm quite positive. Thomas is fighting.
Thank you, Alex.
Just shows you what the drivers have to cope with, John, doesn't it? Do you buy that excuse? Let's have a listen in on board.
Well, I think just listening to that, he's not on it the way you might expect. He's rolling into the corner, picking up the throttle slightly later and not with as much aggression. So maybe he is, saving tyres. I can't think why you set of tyres that's done for the best part of 35 minutes motor racing you want to save, especially. Nevertheless, he's certainly not as fully committed as we might have seen him at the opening point of his stint.
Down the hanger straight, we can get that visual once again, and we can put a stopwatch on it as well. It was 4.2 seconds at the end of the last lap, 3.9 seconds here. That was pretty much how it was going into Stowe at the end of lap 24, wasn't it?
Yeah, that gap is actually on hanger straight. What we see on the timing and scoring is the time taken at the start-finish line. And you can see differences because on one part of the circuit, the Aston actually may pull out those 2 or 3 tenths. So let's see it at 4.2 it was. Wait for the Nissan to come through and see if the gap has closed up. Stays 4.2 seconds. So the differences on the straight, on this middle sector of the lap, the Nissan can close the gap down, but on that final short last sector, Thomas Enger has enough in hand just to increase it back up by 0.3 of a second.
Meanwhile, Nicky Pastorelli still has Dimitri Engelbert in the Corvette chasing him down, but he's not as close as he was. Now, we heard from Michael Rossi, confident, wasn't he, that they would close the Lamborghini down and they would get there on tyre wear by the checkered flag. Seems to me at the moment that the Corvette is suffering more with the tyre wear. It is dropping back a bit.
I suspect it's more to do with the driver. I suspect that Dimitri is really beginning to sense, I've pushed very hard. I did have opportunities. I was ultra cautious. He may have been under team orders not to do anything risky, not to jeopardise his position. Currently running in 7th place, just outside the point. And there's one of the Hex's Aston Martins from before. That's the car of Clivio Piccioni just coming through the loop. Looks slightly slower than normal, but back up to race speed.
Christian Hohenadel in the car taking over from Clivio Piccioni, down in 10th spot, which is nowhere near where they would wanted to be, certainly on a weekend where they would have come here thinking this Aston could give us some decent points here. It's been a particularly disappointing race, this, for the Hexus Aston Martin team, hasn't it?
Yes, I think they'll go away from this, certainly at the qualifying race, wondering why did it not go better, bearing in mind the pace of the Enger car and also the Darren Turner car. Sadly, Darren Turner's car was taken out on the 4th corner of the opening lap with severe rear bodywork damage. Hopefully none of that's to the chassis or the infrastructure around the back of the car.
Yeah, Step Dusseldorp in 5th place at the moment, bringing home some points for Hexus, but maybe capable of a little bit more. The stewards, by the way, have given a last warning to the Luxembourg driver Dimitri Engelbert for abusing the track limits. So the other Corvette attracting the attention of the stewards at the moment, while Mike Heserman in the Team Bank China Corvette just carries on his way regardless, but running some 12 seconds off the pace of Michael Crum in 3rd place.
Yes, and really more importantly, that 12 seconds is every lap increasing because he's just about a second a lap slower than the leading 2 cars. This car was a fantastic job by Andreas Zuber, but the pit stop and then handing over to Mike Heserman. The spin, of course, was the key to Zuber losing any position. He was running in 3rd place and challenging. And had that spin not occurred, we might have seen a different story from Mike Hasemans with his turn behind the wheel.
You might still see a different story. Anything could still happen in the last 5 minutes and 20 seconds. But out in front, Thomas Enger maintaining that 4.2-second advantage over Michael Krum. He let it slip by about 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds over the period of 3 laps, and now just maintaining that gap. Krum either unable to do too much about it, or Enger just picked up the pace a little bit, saving his tyres but not saving them too much so that he throws things away. But is Warren Hughes starting to catch Mike Haseman a little?
No, I mean, there's roughly 5 seconds, I think it is, between, or 6.9 seconds, 6.9 seconds, and we've got 4 minutes and 3/4 to go, and it would take something remarkable from Warren Hughes, not to say that he isn't capable, but if he hasn't got the equipment, he ain't going to get it done. But I mean, consolidate, take that car into 4th place, pick up your points, but principally think about Sunday and for the championship race, the Tourist Trophy, which we held in our hands yesterday.
Yes, probably the only time we're ever going to have it in our hands and in the back of the Nissan GTR that we were
mighty heavy, I can assure you.
It is, I have to say. It nearly put me back out trying to put that piece of silverware into the car, but one of the oldest racing trophies still fought for. 1905 the Tourist Trophy was originally competed for, and before you ask, no, John wasn't in the race that year.
But I do remember seeing the Tourist Trophy when it was being held in Northern Ireland at the wonderful road track just outside Belfast. Still there. 90% of it is original. It's a facsimile, a timepiece.
On board in the Aston Martin, currently leading this race. Aston Martin, multiple winners of the Tourist Trophy before, 3.4 seconds ahead of that Nissan, but that's going through Brooklands and around the final, well, what used to be the final corner of the young driver Aston Martin. There's the team owner looking very pleased with himself. Jan, I'm not surprised.
Well, that's a good result for them. They came here hoping to undo the misfortunes that they suffered with that minor infringement with the underbody, the plank that runs under these cars. So Thomas Enger, 3.7 seconds. The Nissan is running down, but it's more that Thomas has now backed off. He's about, well, 0.5 second a lap slower on the last lap, and you can clearly see the gap has closed up quite dramatically with just just under 3 minutes remaining.
Yeah, they've probably got a couple of laps remaining, the lead two, after this lap 27 that they're on. We'll put the stopwatch on, and once again down the Hangar Straight, 3.2 seconds. And the stewards are going to look at the first lap after the race. That's incidents that took out Brabham, Turner and Peter Dumbreck. And who else was involved in all that? Marcus Winkelhock was involved in that as well. I think he must have got caught up with Maxime Martin on the first lap. We're going to investigate that after the race. So you never know, John, we might even see penalties being awarded in the stewards' room affecting the championship race tomorrow. Nothing, though, will affect Thomas Enger from the stewards' room. It's been absolutely perfect for both Enger and his teammate Alex Muller ever since the first round of, the round of pit stops.
Yes, I mean, it's a typical good team driver engineer race. Aston Martin have a competitive car at Silverstone. They've played to their strengths. They've been challenged in qualifying by the Corvette. They've been threatened by Nissan, with the 4 Nissans obviously being strong contenders for victory here, but they've not been able to put one of their 4 cars into the lead of this race when it actually has counted, which has been after the round of pit stops.
And it should move in the teams championship. The young driver team up in a second place as well, behind the Lexus Aston Martin. They'll leap above the allinkle.com Munich Motorsports Lamborghinis come the end of this race. Meanwhile, at JR Motorsports, that missed communication, they'll be thinking, what if we came in a lap earlier with Lucas Luhr, who started brilliantly, but admitted himself he stayed out a lap too long.
I think the difference is that the Nissan of Michael Krum right now would be probably half the distance it is currently to the tail of the Aston Martin. I think Aston did a great job, and Thomas Enger on his first flying lap did a brilliant job to maximise the freshness of the rubber on the Aston Martin to help gain that advantage. The differences in the pit stops we might get to find out a little bit later tonight and see whether there was much there between the two teams. but the outlap of Enge clearly was a big contribution to the advantage that he's enjoyed in this second part of the race.
3 seconds the gap now. The best that Michael Krum can hope for is to put his lights on full beam and try and dazzle the Czech driver, but even that I think is a futile operation as Thomas Enge makes his way round the final corner round club to start his final lap of the race, and the gap 3.1 seconds.
So into Abbey, and the car goes through that seamlessly. Enge's really just sitting back and not having to work the car hard. He's not working himself hard. He knows the gap he has with Michael Krum. Their lap times have seesawed around the 2 minutes 2 minutes 1 second per lap. Gap there looks fractionally closer as we come on this last lap of this 1 hour race, but the reality is it would take something disastrous to occur for Thomas Enge and the Aston Martin, the young driver Aston Martin team car, not to take victory this afternoon. And
it's going to be a very sweet taste of champagne for Thomas Enge, isn't it, who has retired from 3 out of the last 4 races in GT1 this season. In fact, he's had 4 retirements altogether. It'll be a 3rd podium of the season in a few moments' time, but his first win of the season as well for Thomas Enge and his teammates, the German driver Alex Müller. The young driver team celebrating here at Silverstone in just a few moments' time in a race that they've rather nicked from the hands of the JR Motorsport Nissan. Through Maggots and Beckett's one last time as Alex Müller makes his way towards the pit wall to join in the celebrations. It's a comfortable gap and has been ever since the round of pit stops. In fact, he could just look in his mirrors now, I think, and see the Nissan with him and see it closing up a little bit and almost toy like a mouse, a cat playing with a mouse and dangling it by the tail at the edge of its paws.
Very high-tech that. But anyway, we see the final time into Vale, and the checkered flag is already unfurled
and blowing in the breeze and ready to wave for Thomas Enge, who picks up his first win in the FIA GT1 World Championship in 2011. Michael Krum comes home for a 2nd place finish for Nissan. Well done to Aston Martin and Nissan, who confirmed what most people thought, that this could be the track, Silverstone, that suits their cars. This is the car that started on pole position for the race. Mike Hesselman comes home for a podium 12 months after seeing his Corvette disappear in flames on this very ground. He comes now to take that 3rd place, and a long way behind. Warren Hughes will complete a Nissan double appearance in the top 4. Aston Martin, the Hexus team with Stepp Dusseldorf, will come home for 5th place, and this man, Nicky Pastorelli, has manhandled that Lamborghini beautifully in the closing stages, John Watson, to pick up the final point in a 6th place finish.
Well, he played the mental game with the Corvette, Dimitri Angle there, and he just beat him on the poor guy, and the Corvette couldn't deal with the pressure. He had opportunities to take the position, but didn't actually go ahead and exercise it.
Vanina Rix will come home for Belgian racing and put that car into the top 10 for the 2nd weekend in a row. They had their best finish
in haste, and sometimes it's unusual to see a driver not being able to unhatch or decouple the seatbelt. It's not a good sign that that is the case. But Thomas getting a bit of assistance from some of his engineers, while Michael Krum is out of the car. Alex Müller looking over in the Parc Fermé, and Thomas still in the car. And whatever the problem is with that seatbelt, you wouldn't want to have that problem if you had a hot seat, would you?
Yeah, well, no, quite. It's a good job that didn't happen during the pit stops. Got to take his radio off as well before he wanders too far. He might get garroted in a minute, Thomas Enge there. But you just wonder if the seatbelts weren't fitted properly, if something jammed in during the pit stop change.
Well, I mean, one of the things we have seen in a couple of events is the pressure that the drivers are under now to get the pit stop, the driver change carried out, because that now takes marginally longer than it does to change all 4 wheels and tyres. So in the process of driver changing, we have seen, in the case of one of the Nissans, Richard Westbrook being one, I think Peter Dumbreck another, where they didn't have the belts fully attached and they were going down the pit lane and they were pulling on the shoulder straps to try and get them tightened up.
Mike Heserman and Andy Zuber. Andy Zuber saying, do I just go to the podium now? And he's promptly told, no, you've got to talk to Haley Coxon first. It's been a while since Andy Zuber was on the podium, so you know we can forgive him for not knowing the correct procedure. But that's the car that started on pole, John. They'll be delighted they're on the podium, but should they be disappointed that they couldn't turn it into a win?
I think so. I mean, that arguably was the quickest car of the field. I think maybe a little bit of inexperienced Andy Zuber not having done a GT1 event so far this year. Of course, a new circuit possibly to him in a GT car, and maybe just was a little bit overly cautious and allowed the field, particularly Lucas Luhr, who took a real flyer and got the momentum. And there were almost 4 cars abreast at one point before they entered into, but Lucas Luhr was on the outside of the circuit, the left-hand line, coming into the corner, and had the momentum to sweep in front of the entire field. And Andreas Zuber just sort of got swamped by everyone around him.
So Enger and Muller, winners, and talking now with Haley Coxon.
Congratulations, Thomas. It's good to see you back winning again. And we always thought you could do it because you won here last year.
Yeah, definitely. Our car was great today. We had, I think, the best pit stop in the whole paddock. We need to thank our guys because we got from P2 to P1 after the pit stop with some good margin. Alex did a great first stint from being P3 on the grid, P2 after the first corner or after the start, and then holding up, being close behind the Nissan. So it was a thrilling fight at the beginning, and then I think the pit stops made a difference, and yeah, we are very happy we could grab first starting position for tomorrow's race, and obviously the 8 points for a victory here.
Congratulations, Alex. Your first time here and now your first qualifying race of 2011.
Thanks. Yeah, as Thomas said, the boys did a hell of a job on the pit stop. Otherwise, it would be tight because I was faster than the Nissan in my first stint. But it's a tank in front of you driving, and it steals all the downforce, so it's nearly impossible to pass. But finally, yeah, we won. Thomas did a great job, and we're happy to be on pole for tomorrow for the championship race.
Thank you, guys.
Thomas Enger, who of course with Darren Turner last year, just to remind you, finished first in the championship race, had their hands on the Tourist Trophy, but it was taken away by an infringement, technical infringement. Our runners-up are in the Nissan, the JR Motorsports Nissan of Michael Crum and Lucas Luhr. Let's have a little listen to how they feel after the race. Once more with Haley.
Congratulations, Michael. You had quite a fight on your hands there, but some more points for you to add there.
Yeah, we're really happy. The Nissan GT-R ran really well today. Thanks to the team to finish second here. And the qualifying race is fantastic. I think congratulations to the Astons. I mean, they did a fantastic job. I don't think they were beatable. I'm sure Thomas controlled the pace in the end. So it was. I tried everything, but that's it, you know.
And Lucas, do you think the mistake that you thought you made with the pit stop strategies affected the end result?
I think we lost a little bit of time there, but our plan is just to do it like in the Algarve, you know, finish second on Saturday and win on Sunday. So we are in a good position for tomorrow's race for sure, and I'm happy with it. And then we see if my brother can do a good start like I today and just take off.
Thank you.
Well, they'll analyse, John, the lap times, and they'll work out how much that extra lap cost them.
Yes, I mean, it's easy for the teams to calculate what they've done, and equally any of the other teams in the pit lane, so they'll analyse everything in detail. Nigel Stepney, the team manager, is an expert at all that, so he'll be on the case immediately.
Let's hear from our third place pairing, once more with Haley.
Congratulations, Mike. Are you happy with that?
Yeah, I was a little bit disappointed because we had no grip in the race, so we still have to find a way to, because we were third fast, but we were licking pace to the first two, so we have to see what we can do tomorrow.
Andy, congratulations. Second row for you tomorrow?
Yes, like you said, we have to find a little bit pace in the race, but then it should be fine. A good start for Mike. He's better than me at the start. I had problems with the gears today, so it's a bit not good for me. But in the race, it was quite okay for me. In the end, I lost a little bit of grip, but I hope tomorrow will be better.
Thank you.
good explanation there, John, as to how Lucas Luhr managed to get the jump start on Andy Zuber. He was on pole, was the man from Dubai, but didn't last long. Thomas Enger and Alex Muller, the winners then. Michael Krum and Lucas Luhr, Mike Heserman and Andy Zuber making the 1, 2, 3. As you can see, the Sumo Power Nissan of Hughes and Benoldi a long way off the pace in fourth. The first Aston Martin, the Hexus Aston Martin team, Dusseldorp and Piccioni in fifth. And Pastorelli and Schwager hung on for a point that they possibly didn't think was ever going to be theirs come the start of this race in the Lamborghini. And we only had 15 classified finishers. All sorts of carnage and chaos at the start of the race, which I'm sure the stewards are now going to look at, and hopefully we'll look at again in a moment. John, we've heard two drivers, haven't we, saying both Jamie Campbell-Walter and Darren Turner, you know, sorted out at the start. Drivers need to think a little bit more as we look now at the driver classification. The Christian Hohenadel and Andrea Piccini hanging on to their lead from Mark Bassengen, Marcus Winkelhock, but we'll see Michael Krum and Lucas Luhr making their way up the table a little bit there. Steph Dusseldorp and Clivio Piccioni also getting points. But John, the start.
Well, I mean, we had a start where Andrea Zuber was a little bit overcautious. He said he had some gear problems, but Lucas Luhr took the opportunity, swept the momentum away from the rest of the field and dominated the first part of the race. But all these guys saying we shouldn't have accidents, it's in the hands of those drivers to avoid them.
Well, let's take a look at the start once more and the highlights of this race. There's Lucas Luhr.
I mean, you can see the Corvette. It's like a punch bowl between two Aston Martins. There we get the Clivio Piccioni car getting turned round in the middle of the exit of Abbey. Then it's up in, as the camera angle from on board, but and bang up the back of that. I mean, it was, I mean, frankly, as Richard Westwood said, it was ridiculous.
But there, Darren Turner gets punted from the Nissan behind him, and then Jamie Campbell-Walter there at Nissan with David Brabham, completely innocent there, couldn't do anything about it.
No, I mean, it's not difficult to avoid these incidents. You've just got to be momentarily, oh dear me, look at that. We didn't see that the first time around. No, well, scary moment for Darren Turner.
Absolutely, and they face a race against time to repair that car in time for the race tomorrow, championship race.
There we had another problem on the forward, the door open. That was again due to contact here, one of the Astons that came in rather early, and we saw that high-speed spin from Andreas Zuber, the rear end of the car locking up. He said gear selection, maybe that was the cause of that high-speed spin.
Gear selection at the start, lack of grip later on, but this is where the race turned around. They came in second place, did Muller and Enger. Pitting on the same lap, Andy Zuber handing over to Mike Heserman, but staying out for a couple of laps more, and one lap certainly extra than planned, Lucas Luhr and Michael Krum.
I think there's a great stop from the Aston team. They really sort of got the sweet spot of the pit stops themselves. I don't think Nissan did a bad job at all, but just sometimes one team will do it marginally better. They got track position, and Thomas Enger, once he had clear air, he wasn't going to be beaten.
Certainly not. And takes the checkered flag for his first win of the season and starts the championship race on pole position. Don't miss it. The Tourist Trophy is up for grabs.